So game week 14 is done and dusted in Sky Bet League 1. I went to an Oktoberfest event yesterday and I'm extremely hungover. Let's go. So we might have had a week off, but nothing changes when it comes to these roundups, 4 selected games for you, delving deep into the details of these League 1 encounters. Let's begin with the first match. It's Bolton against Northampton Town. So it ends Bolton 2, Northampton 1, the XG 1.48 to 0.40. Bolton really don't make it easy for themselves, do they? As they just about beat Northampton by 2-1. Touching on Bolton's performance first, for the first 25 minutes or so, it looked like a transformed Bolton outfit, but after such a dominant spell, it fell flat so quickly. Was it complacency, fitness, poor game management, strange instructions from Ian Evatt? It's been a lethargic trend so far this season. Bolton didn't need to fire on all cylinders to beat this Northampton team, let's be honest, with the lack of creativity that they offered, but the biggest concern is that reoccurring theme. When touching on Northampton's performance, it's another narrow defeat for Northampton. That's now 7 times they've lost by a single goal. With more creativity and a more consistent goal threat going forward, this game could have ended very differently because Bolton really were inviting the pressure. When looking at the graph brought to you by SofaScore, as mentioned earlier, it clearly visualises how Bolton started the game very strong, but a sudden drop-off completely opened things up. I think Northampton smelt blood in the second half when they realised Bolton weren't looking to kill this game off further, hence the shift post the break. Patchy, lethargic, passive, 3 words to describe Bolton's second half display, and 3 words that can easily describe a team that didn't win. Let's touch on the stat. Unlike Ian Evatt's usual intentions, Bolton conceded the majority of the ball after the break and allowed Northampton to find a way back into the contest. Only 2 shots on target in the second half further emphasises the lack of threat Bolton offered at times and the strange call to not kill this game off sooner. From a game that looked totally comfortable in the early stages, Bolton seemed to force their way into an ugly, hard-fought battle, and that didn't need to happen. The first 25 minutes showed us that really didn't need to be the case. When looking at the average positions, Northampton's game plan is visualised clearly. Look how compact they wanted this game to become, and look at the number of bodies in the central areas. And for the most part, you'd say this tactical decision worked. Bolton would usually like to see a more expansive spread of their players across the pitch, but this was made very difficult due to the setup of the away side. The passive and slow elements of Bolton's display could be partly down to the lack of fluidity and almost respect the opposition are allowing them to have. That's not just in this game, but I'd say in quite a few matches so far this season. When summing up and giving my final points on this game, look, it's an ugly win, and every now and again that type of win is fine in football, and that is a good way in some cases to win a football match. But this quality of Bolton performance and showing isn't sustainable. That's the bottom line. It's not sustainable and can't continue if they do have aspirations of beating better sides, let's be frank, and be finishing in the top positions at the end of the season. With all respect to Northampton, a better side in the attacking third would have dismantled Ian Evatt's team yesterday, and I'm not sure the home side would have been able to react. For Northampton, it really could have been a much better final outcome, and like I said, when starting off this section, it's another game in which they lose so narrowly. Next up, Shrewsbury 1, Derby County 0. The XG 1.58 to 0.62. As the pressure intensifies on poor Warne, Derby County lose on the road in sloppy fashion at Shrewsbury Town. Let's touch on Shrewsbury first. This feels like a big moment for Shrewsbury, whether Derby are in form or not. This win will mean more than just points on the board. Confidence in football is often not spoken about enough, but that result and performance will feed pure positivity, if you like, metaphorically, into that dressing room, and that is exactly what they needed. It really should have been more convincing too. Derby did little in attack and numerous chances weren't tucked away, including a controversial penalty that was given by the referee. From Matty Taylor's point of view, this is a huge step in the right direction and a massive positive when it comes to result, but also performance as well. When looking at Derby County, their performance, not very good whatsoever. Sometimes we can overanalyse things, but poor Warne and Derby County are not working. It's not a working partnership at the moment, and at the start of the season I couldn't think of a way it didn't click, but only 13 games in, he's treading serious water. The strong expectation for consistent results and performances with little underdog mentality looks too much for him right now, and I think it might be time. It's a big call, could be too early, but I just don't see this partnership and relationship with the fans as well, because it did get quite nasty at full time, I don't see that partnership rectifying anytime soon. When looking at the graph, it does show us a few things, but the biggest one is the difference in threat when both sides came forward. The taller green spikes show the better chances that were created when Shrewsbury were on top compared to the disjointed attacking display from the visitors. Derby tried to take control in the second half, but any rhythm they intended to create was so brilliantly broken down by the hosts. When looking at the stats, although Derby had more of the ball, what they did with it was far less effective than the home side's output. One of the biggest red flags to come out of this Derby display is the failure to accumulate a single big chance across the 90 minutes. Such a damaging statistic, that one. In fact, from a broader perspective, Derby have actually taken the 4th lowest number of shots from open play in the league. Ironically, Shrewsbury sit bottom of that list, but in a game of goal-scoring woes, or a battle of the goal-scoring woes, it's the home side that prevail in flying colours. When looking at key players, I thought Shrewsbury were excellent to a man, and not one player didn't positively impact that all-round team performance. If I had to choose one, I'd go with Jason, and I'm not going to pronounce his second name because I don't want to ruin it. It's a brilliant name, and I'm not very good at pronunciations, but he was immense at the back yesterday. He accumulated 3 clearances, 1 interception, 10 defensive actions, and an 89% ground duel success rate. He was exceptional. In a very robust and well-organised Shrewsbury back line, he put in a superb performance and didn't put a foot wrong across the 90 minutes of football. When giving my final point and summing up this match, I'll repeat what I said earlier. This is more than just 3 points for Shrewsbury. From a psychological point of view, this is a statement result. For Derby, it was meant to be 2 weeks to improve on a 1-1 draw at Cheltenham, and in reality, this team looks to be getting worse. At the Kassam, it finishes Oxford 1, Blackpool 1, the XG 0.35 to 0.96. It's injury time heartbreak for Oxford as Jordan Rose does the business for Blackpool again this season. Looking at it from an Oxford perspective first, it seems the last 2 weeks haven't quite gone to plan for Oxford. An illness outbreak and knocks across the squad. Resting has been a struggle. The first half looked brilliant, full of control, rhythm, a delightful team goal to go with it as well. The only complaint being, could have we created more with the pressure? In the second half, the game shifted and Blackpool took the reins, smelling blood as Oxford visibly looked to tire. On reflection, I'm happy with a point. Blackpool are a very good side and I expect them to be up there come the end of the season. It's the timing of the equaliser that hurts the most. When looking at it from a Blackpool perspective, the best aspect of their performance was always staying in the game and limiting Oxford to few big chances over the match. Even in spells where Oxford were in total control, bar one moment, Blackpool remained well organised and compact, soaking up the pressure throughout. The front-footed intentions post the break caught Oxford off guard and forced the hosts to chase the game for large spells. Tiredness, lack of concentration, sloppy/poor game management is the real killer for the Yellows in this one. When looking at this very strange graph, it shows the domination of Oxford in the first half and the quick change in control as the game progressed. It also highlights the point where Oxford really could have been more effective with their attacking output when on top. There's plenty of green but a lack of height on those bars. The final 30 minutes were all Blackpool as they grew into this encounter. I think if this game continued any longer, there would only be one winner. When looking at the stats, their lack of attacking threat is further emphasised from an Oxford point of view. The home side failed to accumulate a single shot on goal in the second half, with only one total shot. We created a second half XG of 0.03, with our only effort coming from outside the area. Interestingly, Blackpool were even more passive before the break, failing to hit a single shot at all, but their reaction was impressive as they had the bravery to take the game to an informed side away from home. When looking at key players, this game wasn't really about individuals, and let's be honest, it wasn't a brilliant game of football overall, but Jordan Rhodes' impact on this Blackpool team can't be understated. That's now 8 goals from 8 starts, averaging 1.8 shots per 90. A 22% goal conversion rate is pretty good, but the importance of popping up with the goods in key moments is the reason why he's valued so high this season. When summing up and giving my final points on this game for Oxford, as mentioned earlier, the timing of the goal is what hurts the most. But on reflection, it's a good point against a very good side. The attacking display was off, and bar one passage of play, it wasn't free-flowing whatsoever. And I think when Liam Manning breaks this one down, the second half, and definitely aspects of the creative showing in the first half, there's plenty to work on. Missing Cameron Brannigan and others clearly not being at full fitness was a big blow. It's not an excuse, but I'd say it's a reason why it wasn't as good as previous weeks and what we've seen this season ultimately. For Blackpool, the reaction after the break was impressive, and the belief shown will provide plenty of positives for Neil Critchley going forward. It finishes Charlton 4, Reading 0. The XG 1.36 to 0.90. XG of 1.36 with 4 goals scored for Charlton. One word comes to mind straight away. I'll save it for later. After a rampant second half that Charlton destroyed Reading, winning 4 of their current 7-game unbeaten run in Sky Bet League One. Charlton, second half FC? Maybe. I'm not sure many Charlton fans will care at all. It was a brilliant display after the break, absolutely tearing Reading apart. After being slightly sloppy in the final third early doors, the clinical edge was top-notch after half-time and proved pivotal in a convincing win. We'll touch on key players later. One comes to mind straight away, but defensively, the Charlton organisation was brilliant and the avoidable mistakes already look removed. This Charlton side mean business, and perhaps their slow start has put them under the radar, but I don't think they'll mind that at all, to be honest. Reading, it just gets worse. Serious question marks over Sellers again, who is really struggling to get things right at the moment as Reading manager. After a few brief moments here and there, Reading failed to threaten Charlton in the second half, almost conceding every shot on target. The 4-2-2, 4-2-2-2, 4-3-3 mashup is a nightmare and looks totally confusing and certainly isn't working. It sounds obvious, but there is simply no identity whatsoever when looking at Reading, and a visual mess when breaking and analysing this side down at the moment. When looking at the graph does show quite a patchy first half, with Reading probably edging it slightly, but the open nature of the away side's play left them exposed far too often on the counter. We'll touch on the brilliant work of Charlton as they exposed Reading time and time again with the same attacking pattern, to be honest, and you can see Charlton weren't always dominating, but ensured their chances were converted following brilliant work on the turnover. When looking at the stats, it shows a fairly even game with both sides having their moments, but this match is won through one thing: impressive chance conversion. Appleton let his side concede more of the ball after half time, but trusted the pace of Blackett-Taylor and Tyrese Campbell to cause big problems on the break. This tactical decision worked perfectly and played to Charlton's strengths in a brilliant way. And speaking of Corey Blackett-Taylor, he was on fire yesterday. He managed 3 assists, 3 big chances created, and the perfect player to be effective on the break. When looking at his personal heat map, it shows his progressive positioning and desire to carry the ball into dangerous areas. He'll come deep and progress the ball with pace and purpose, looking to create for the finishes of Anike and Alfie May, both of which, of course, got on the score sheet once again yesterday. He was a game changer against Blackpool 2 weeks ago and was no different yesterday afternoon. I was so impressed by his individual showing, and to be fair, Charlton all round were exceptional in that second half. So around the grounds we go. Charlton 4, Reading 0, Stevenage 0, Port Vale 0, Shrewsbury 1, Derby County 0, Pompey 1, Carlisle 0, Shaughnessy, a header. 3rd minute of injury time. We've seen that before. Never say die football. Always finding a way to win. The top sides always find a way to win. Remember that. Peterborough 2, Wycombe 2, Oxford 1, Blackpool 1, Leyton Orient 1, Barnsley 1, Fleetwood 0, Lincoln 1, Exeter 0, Wigan 2. Charlton win a game in Sky Bet League 1, beating Cambridge by 1-0. Burton 4, Bristol Rovers 1, Bolton 2, Northampton 1. As always, if you did find value from the content, please make sure you subscribe and leave a like. Over 100 likes would be fantastic. We're so close to 6.2 thousand subscribers as well. It's great to be back after the international break, and yeah, some great fixtures to get stuck into. I've really enjoyed today, and I will see you all very, very soon. Take care.